Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of People Who Inspire. I'm excited that this is the first episode for 2024. And as I always say, that the import of this live stream is to just have a conversation with, innovators, professionals, thinkers, doers, trailblazers, people whose lives would serve as a blueprint of inspiration for everyone who tunes in. So today I'm really excited to have a very lustrous and astute business person as well. His expertise cuts both across the industry and academia. So I'm really excited to have Ken. As I choose to call him, but I mean, professionally, he's Dr. Ken. So, hello, Ken. How are you? I'm really excited to have you on People Who Inspire. I think you're on mute. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi,
No.
Prince. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
I must say that it's a privilege to be here. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful interaction. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. For those of you watching, I've known Ken for some time now, since the days of Infanspim. So it's quite intriguing to see his strides and how far he's come. So today we're just going to focus a lot more on Ken, and what I normally would like to start with, Ken, is a lot of people who are watching this are either your students or your colleagues, in academia and maybe in the industry as well. But what for me it's most, let's say, crucial is to understand how you got to where you are today, right? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? My main focus is on how you grew up. Where did you grow up? How was it like, growing up? Did you come from, a background of academia, right? Or did you kind of break the mold to kind of chart a new path in academia for yourself? So can you tell me a little bit about who Ken is? And I know most of us know you as the Shark, but can you tell us a bit about your background?
Okay. Interesting. So, I was actually born in a town called Diayo in Kwanta. Diayo in Kwanta is currently in the Ahafo region. For those of you who use the Kumasi-Sunyani road, it is the town after, I would say the biggest town after Bichim, and it's one of the biggest before you get to Sunyani. So that was where I was born, right? So I started schooling in Diayo Kwanta. I remember I went to 31st daycare, and then I also went to, I think somewhere around age 5, or let's say age 6, my father was transferred to Accra. And by my father, I mean my father, who is a banker. He used to work with Ghana Commercial Bank. So I had the opportunity to relocate to Accra. So back in Accra, I started schooling at Daras School. Daras School, I must say, was in its time was one of the best schools you will find in Accra, actually. Yes, so it was a place of learning, very interesting, very disciplined environment, and actually had opportunity to go to advancement school, and then from advancement school went to KNUST, where I studied land economy. Right, I graduated with first class honors. And as it's always the case, the first class students or the best students are usually retained in the department as teaching assistants. So I had the privilege of serving in the department as a teaching assistant. And then from there, I won the Commonwealth shared scholarship to do a master a master's degree at the University of Cambridge. So I did that. And then from there, I proceeded to the University of Reading, where I did a PhD in real estate and planning, but with a specialty in real estate finance and economics. I've subsequently had opportunity to study at various places, including the University of Iowa. So in terms of education, that has been the trajectory. I must say it has been, I would say, a smooth ride, really. I have not had the kind of setbacks that other people have had. Right. So that is it for me in terms of education. But growing up, I had interests, right? I must say. And there were two prominent interests that I had. I used to draw a lot, I used to draw a lot to the extent
Oh,
that
really?
at a point,
Wow.
between the ages, let's say at age 5, 6, right? There were some people who felt that the only thing I knew how to do was to draw, really. And because I have not really shown great signs, in intellectual things, right? So I was drawing, and I was drawing on anything, on the mattress, on papers. I was drawing everywhere. So even at Dara School, at the time, the teachers in the kindergarten and the nursery will usually invite me to come and draw, apples and mangoes, animals, so they can use, that to teach, the young ones. So it was something that I had a lot of interest in, but I think I didn't make a lot of progress with
Wow.
that. Where I saw a lot of progress was in the area of football. I used
Okay, can you still hear me? I think we lost you there. Okay, so I think we lost Ken there. So I'll try to reconnect with him in a moment. Let me just get him back in a jiffy.
Okay. I think your
Yeah,
microphone is
we lost you there, but yeah, welcome back.
okay. Thank you. I think
Yes, I'm
I'm
back
having
now.
a
Yes.
little
Yeah.
internet
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah. So I was on the point.
Okay, no
I was
problem.
making the point that so one other notable thing that people associate with me was also playing football, right? So if I was not drawing, I was playing football. And it turned out that in any environment I found myself, I was either the best, in playing football, or I was one of the best, right? So in almost all the cases, I was made the captain. Being the captain means you are the best on the field. So even in the
Yeah,
community
the best.
where I grew
Yeah.
up in Accra, yeah, even in the community where I grew up in Accra, which is Ajoman. Ajoman is one of the communities in Teshinungwa in Accra, right? We'll play the captain. When I go to school, I also act as the captain. So I remember back in Dara school, I was the only junior who would play both in the junior team and would play in the senior team. And even at that time, I was very tiny,
Oh,
extremely
wow.
tiny, but I think I had the skill. So my teachers will, will give me the opportunity to explore that ability. I had the opportunity when I was in class 6 to join a football team in the Ajoman community. And after playing for 1 year, league, the juvenile Tema area or district. It was
Wow.
at one of the inter-house football competitions at Dara School that one of the officials spotted me, right? He felt I was so talented. And at the time, Ajax Academy, and by Ajax Academy, I mean Ajax Amsterdam, the football club Ajax Amsterdam,
Oh, wow.
that Mohamed
Yeah.
Kudus, right, played for before he moved to West Ham,
Yes.
had a football academy in Ghana. And so at the time, they were doing a Justify Your Inclusion. So this official sort of informed a senior person who
Okay,
was
so I think,
involved in the
okay. Are
who
you
was
back? Okay. Mhm.
yeah. So I was saying that it was during one of the inter-house football competitions at Dara School that one of the officials spotted me. He felt that I was so talented and that I belonged to, I should be playing for a bigger club. So at the time, Ajax Amsterdam, which is the football club Ajax Amsterdam in Netherlands, had a football academy in Ghana, right? They were running that academy in collaboration with
Wow.
Goldfields, the then Goldfields. Now we call it Ash Gold. And around the time they were doing a Justify Your Inclusion. So I was invited to justify my inclusion, and I was picked to play for Ajax Amsterdam. You know the interesting thing
Wow.
about the,
Wow.
the interesting thing about being a captain in any environment I found myself also came out to play. When I got to Ajax Academy, there was what we in football you call a shadow team. So there was an existing team, right? So the new recruits joined the shadow team to form the regular team. And there was a captain, actually. There was a captain. But then,
Okay.
interestingly, by the time the league started, I was made the captain, right? So we played for 1 year in the Greater Accra Juvenile League. And out of 22 matches, I remember I scored 32 goals out of 22 matches. Yeah, that was amazing.
What?
I think if not for the fact that
Wow.
we had to quit the league at a point because the collaboration between Ajax Amsterdam and the Goldfields had come to an end, I would have been the Gold King. I mean, the Gold King, actually. So this was somewhere in
Wow.
2003.
Yeah.
And around that time, I had written the BECE, and I had come out with flying colors. I had 9 ones out of 10. And I decided at that point that I wanted to go to school. So um, I went to school. Maybe let me pause here a bit. I'm sure you have
Wow.
questions
You,
to
you know,
pose.
yeah, like I saw your post some months ago when I think you had posted an old photo of you on the field, football field, and like you said,
Yeah,
you looked a bit smaller, and you were with
yeah.
these other players. And in my mind, I thought, oh, maybe it's just one of those PE classes. But like this was like real. Like you were really good with this football thing. I'm really shocked. Wow, this is really amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, to see that I mean, a whole professor was like the go king, and like for me, what I'm thinking about now is that when you got in Fanspem, I didn't really see the sports, aspect, right? Because like I said, I've always known you to be, the bookworm, the shark,
Yeah.
So like hearing this really excites me. Why didn't you decide to, let's say, play for the Fanspem football team or like get really active in sports in Fanspem?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting revelation I'm going to make here. A lot of people don't know.
Okay.
I never chose in Fanspem school. I never chose in Fanspem. So at the time, I was so much into football. Yeah, I never did. So I was so much into football. I wanted to be a footballer, right? And so I believed that going to a boarding school I believe that going to a boarding school was going to limit the opportunities for me to develop that talent, right? Because of the restrictions in the boarding school.
Wow.
Yes, because of the restrictions in the boarding school. And so I decided that I was going to choose a day school so that after school, I can go and develop my talent, right? And so I actually chose St. Thomas Aquinas. Yeah, I actually chose St. Thomas
Wow.
Aquinas.
I didn't
And
know this.
then, yeah. So when the results came in, I went to check, and my name was number 2 on the general arts list. Yeah, but after registering, I never went back. My grand aunt, whom I am so grateful to, because I believe that if not for her efforts, perhaps I wouldn't be here. Right? She, at the time, used to live in Cape Coast, and her husband was a teacher at Holy Child School. She came to Accra one time, and whilst we were preparing to go to school, and asked about my results. And when she got to know that I had 9 ones out of 10, she was like,
Okay.
"No way! There was no way I was going to any other school apart from a school in Cape Coast, right?" So, and you see, the coincidence or the beauty of the coincidence was that around the same time, I had been featured in the junior graphic as a promising footballer, you know. And
Oh.
and so
Oh,
she
wow.
decided to use her social capital at the time to help me to get into advancement. So she knew Mr. Hope,
To
Mr.
get,
Hope Senior,
wow.
and then she also knew Mr.
Oh,
Abairo,
Hopeman. Oh, okay.
who was then, yeah, uh, who was the then deputy headmaster academic. So she made her case to them that, look, this is my my chap, right, who had come out with flying colors. He's also talented in football, and I want you guys to
In
admit him.
football.
Around the time, I think Infansum had come up with a new policy not to recruit purely, or what do you call pure sports boys.
Yes,
Secondary
sports.
schools will
Yeah.
usually
Yes, yes,
recruit
yes.
very talented people on the basis of their sporting prowess and abilities. And I think for many schools that did that, these students sometimes were seen as non-serious. They only showed up when there was sports. They would Many
Yeah.
of them will usually not go to class, and so in
Yeah.
the final exam they would not
They'll
perform.
skip class. Yeah.
So I think at the time, Fansman had come up with a policy not to recruit, boys purely on their sporting abilities. You should have demonstrated some academic abilities as well and some seriousness. So I think everything worked for my good. So here was I had good grades. I had also demonstrated that I was so good at playing football. And so I think it was quite easy for the that decision, right, to admit me. So I actually went to advancement 2 weeks after my colleagues had actually come in.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Wow. That's amazing. Amazing story. And for me, I think this for those of you watching, this is why, I do these discussions, because, we always see people from afar, like Ken, we admire them from afar, but when we get to hear their stories, we get to understand the details of their journeys. We appreciate them even better. I think we have a bit of a network issue, so Ken will be joining back soon. I think his network is. For those of you who are joining, just feel free to send in your questions or comments. And we know Ken as as a very brilliant person academically. He's a lecturer, but the other aspect of him being a footballer, I mean, he could have probably played for the national team, looking at, how good he was. Please feel free to send in your questions, your comments. If you have any questions for Ken, he will dial back in and we'll continue the discussions. This is People Who Inspire. You can call it PWI for short. And the whole purpose of these episodes that I do is to have conversations with young people, innovators, thinkers, doers, and trailblazers. The idea is that we can glean a lesson or two from their journeys. And for me, this is the most important thing, that the narratives, the stories of people who are industrious, will serve us as inspiration for anyone watching. And this popular African proverb that I keep referencing, that until the lion learns to write, tales of the hands would always glorify the hunter. Until we as Africans give platforms to other Africans, right, to other young people, who is going to know about our story? There's no one is going to know about our exploits, right? So in a very long-term vision for this platform, the idea is to kind of document, the journeys of young people and what they have been able to achieve. So I'll try to get Ken. I think Ken is back in the studio, in the virtual studio. So I'm going to bring him back. Hi, Ken. Yeah, welcome back. Yes. This
Hi,
is, I was just telling the viewers that your story is so inspirational. It's incredible, actually. Like when you think about it, like I never in a million years would have, let's say, associated you with sports.
Yeah. It's
Books,
interesting.
yes, but sports.
In fact, that was how I got to advancement. I would say that I came to advancement.
Wow.
Partly because of my football abilities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's really amazing.
In
it's really amazing.
Yeah. In advancement, in my year, or the year I entered advancement, I was the only Form 1 boy who played in the school team. Yeah, the only Form 1 boy who played in the school team. Of course, there were a few of us who were part of the team, but the core team that was finally selected, I was the only Form 1 boy who played in the school team. And the usual speech day, awards. For all the 3 years that I stayed in advancement, I won the Nana Brubatless Prize for academic excellence and talent for soccer. So in 2004, 2005, 2006, I won those awards, and I also won the Physical Education Award on 2 consecutive times. So the first year and then the second year. In the third year, we don't do physical education. I'm sure if we did, it was likely I would have won that award.
You would have picked that up as well. Wow.
Yeah. So
this like I'm still kind of.
Yeah, it's amazing, but yeah, unfortunately, somewhere in the university, I had to decide whether to pursue my academics
Yeah.
or to, combine football. It was increasingly becoming very challenging. Our educational system is not structured, to allow talented people to, develop their talents without, significant damages to their academics, right? So I quite remember at Tech, when I was in the first year, I played for Republic Hall team, and at a point, I was even invited to, justify my inclusion to play for the university team. But interestingly, I think around that time, I had not been very active, right? So I would say I didn't get the opportunity to play for the team. But then also, one of the rumors that went around was that the coach had said, I think, to some of the players that he needed big boys, and I was a bit tiny, and so
Okay.
I didn't qualify. Uh,
I
or
think
meet,
the network is breaking up a bit.
I couldn't
Okay,
get
you're
in.
back. Okay.
Yeah, but
I think I can hear you now.
okay. So I was making the point that I um, somewhere in first year at the KNUST, I decided that
Oh, I think your network keeps breaking. So, um, is it possible to to dial back in? The network keeps breaking? So, but I think the last
yeah,
thing you had mentioned was the fact that you wanted to. You did a justify your inclusion with the school team at KNUST, and then they needed big boys or something like that. I think that was the
yes,
last thing I heard.
yes. That was a rumor, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh,
that was a
okay.
rumor
Okay. Okay.
from some of the
Okay.
players, yes, who felt that I should be part of the team, right? So at the point, I
Yeah.
just decided that it was becoming so demanding in terms of academics, and trying to prove to a coach who did not believe in my talent but was fixated about my size was not helpful. So I decided that, look, I would focus on my academics, make a first class, and graduate, and go and find something else to do with myself. Yeah, and that was what I did, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a perfect segue into what I want to us to really talk about. How did you feel when you got into Cambridge? Like, I mean, for me, I know, like you said, that in terms of academics, it's been kind of a smooth, sailing for you, and I know you are like your capabilities. But how did you feel when, let's say, you got the mail or the letter that says you made it to Cambridge? Like, for me, I think this is like the dream school of many a young people.
Okay,
Uh,
so
yeah.
yeah, Cambridge for me was a dream come true, because even before I came to the KNUST to start an undergraduate program, I had gotten to know about Cambridge. My cousin Augustine, who is your mate actually, was at the time reading land
Augustine
economy.
Osuansa, or which one?
No, Augustine Ababu.
Oh, Ababu. Oh, Augustine is your cousin.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Augustine
I
is my
didn't know.
cousin. Yeah, he is. Yeah, so at the time he was reading land economy at Tech, and I had interactions with him, and he told me about the fact that graduates from my department often got opportunity to study at the University of Cambridge. And I felt that, wow, that was interesting. So I didn't remember that I actually tried applying to Cambridge to do my undergraduate studies there. Unfortunately, I didn't have the resources at the time, because I quite remember
Wow.
that it was going to cost about £44,000, to study in Cambridge. So I decided that I will go to the KNUST,
Wow.
make sure that I do well, get a scholarship, and go to Cambridge. It came to pass, and then it came to pass, right? So getting to Cambridge was very interesting. I mean, you found yourself among some of the best people in the world, right? I was in a class of, I think, 22, and I was in the same class with
Wow.
Felix Kamuzu Ajiman. Uh,
Oh,
Felix
Kamuzu.
read planning.
I know
Yeah,
Kamuzu.
yeah. Felix read planning at the KNUST, and we're in the same class in Cambridge. Yeah.
Wow. I think
A
your
dream come true.
internet is
Now,
breaking up again. Maybe you can dial back in. Okay, so for those of you watching, I have my guest today, Dr. Ken Appiah, and he's talking about how he got to Cambridge, University of Cambridge. So I'll bring him back in. I think his network is kind of giving him some bit of issues, but we'll see. Yeah, so this is People Who Inspire. I'm really learning quite a bit about my guest today, and I'm sure you're also learning something. There are a few comments that whilst Ken is trying to dial back in, a few comments I would like to bring here. So I think this is from Danu says, Ken was an excellent player back in Dallas. No doubt about that. Okay, so this is like real. We have a few people corroborating the story that indeed he was an excellent football player. And thanks, Danu, for sending that through. Kofi says, nice one. Thanks, Kofi, for tuning in. And I do hope you're learning a thing or two. Then we have, Ato, my own buddy Ato, also sent a comment, but I'll try to get Doc back in. Okay, yes. I was reading a few comments this is from Danu. He says that Ken was an excellent player back in Dallas. No doubt about that. So, we've got people corroborating that you're indeed an excellent football player.
Danu was my mate at Dallas School, so.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. I think you're just talking about your time in Cambridge, being in the same class with Kamuzu. But now let's look at a topic, because we're going to look at how we can bridge the gap between theory and practice. Now, you went to Cambridge. Now, there's this general perception that the education in Ghana and most part of Africa is predominantly theoretical and usually has no bearing with the existential realities of the everyday person. Now, here you are from one education system, the Ghana education system, into Cambridge, right? What was the major difference that you immediately saw between the University of Cambridge education and, let's say, the education you've had in Ghana? Oh, can you hear me, Ken? Just want to make sure. Okay, so I think, yeah, Ken's network is still delaying. But yeah, would read a few comments whilst I try to get Ken back in. So Atu says, look at sure boy. Yeah, we're both in Upper Dome. Big ups to him on what he's achieved. Yeah, thanks Atu for tuning in. Yeah, so local Shaza boys are in the house. Atu is also from Fansfilm, so he was my mate. Hopefully I see some Battle Sneak. I see some Battle Sneak people in the house as well. But yeah, I see that local Shaza boys are representing on the show today. Jihan, thanks for joining. She says it's always great to watch people who inspire and get to know the amazing people from different backgrounds. Thank you, Prince. Thank you, Jihan, for joining. I think I have Doc back on the line.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now? Yeah, no problem. But did you hear my question, or would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please repeat. Please repeat.
Okay. So yeah, so I was talking about today's topic, right? That I want us to kind of do a segue into about how we can bridge the gap between theory and practice. And I want to start from when you got admission into the University of Cambridge, right? So there's a general perception or notion that the education in Ghana is very theoretical and usually has no bearing on the existential realities of the everyday person. And here you are from the Ghana education system into the University of Cambridge. What was, from your point of view, the immediate difference you could tell, right, between the education system in Ghana and what you had at Cambridge?
Interesting. I think the immediate difference was infrastructure. Yeah, infrastructure. Because we had the same type of lectures we have, in Ghana, but then the difference was infrastructure, right? So even the classroom setup, it's quite different from what we have here. The resources available to you as a student is also very different. And so for any willing student, once you have the infrastructure, the resources, then the sky is the limit. Is your springboard. There are resource challenges that people say very old textbook difference I spotted. I don't think the people in Cambridge were necessarily better than the teachers I had here, right? Even they delivered their works.
So yeah, I mean, so there's some sort of charts that I came by, right? And how, like, from your point of view and you being in academia, I've seen a lot of discussions you've had online where there are some people who think that, especially people in the workforce, think that the kind of graduates who are coming out of our universities I think Ken's network is messing up again. But then, yeah, I'll hold on to that question in the meantime. And then I will try to get him back online. Yes, so I think I have him back. I have Doc back online. So yes, yes. I was going to ask my next question, and this has to do with the perception from the workforce that there seems to be a disconnect between the content being delivered at the various universities and what is required by industry, right? So I get the impression that many people, and you can add your voice to it, many people have a misconception that theory means fiction, right? So they kind of equate theoretical understanding as fictitious understanding. But from my understanding of what theory is, it's based on practice, right? So, a researcher like you would observe, collect data from real world, right? And try to develop different methodologies or approaches to tackling whatever problems they are. But people have this misconception that so long as it's theoretical, it means it's unrealistic, it's fictitious, right? Could you speak to this, right? Why is there this gap, right? Why do people think that so long as you are given a theoretical perspective, it means it's irrelevant to practice? Oh, okay. So I think we haven't. Did you hear my question, or are you still here?
Okay, so the internet was messing up a bit, but I think I got a bit of what you were saying.
Okay, you got a question. I can repeat. Okay, I can repeat it, but if you got it, then you can respond.
Okay, so let me react to the bit about the theory. It's the same thing, on social media when people talk about theory, it's always as if they are referring to fiction or untested or unproven explanations of how things work in the real world. And so I get amazed at the sheer level of ignorance, and these are the people who claim they know, and so they are criticizing something they don't even understand. You see, and it worries me a lot, it worries me a lot of the time. So it's one of the things. It's their layman's understanding of what a theory is. But a theory indeed is a proven and tested explanation of a phenomenon, right? And usually it is based on data collected on how things work in practice. You get it? Yeah. So we collect data on how the practitioner works, and then we formulate models that attempt to explain how they do their things. You get it? So that is what a theory is in a scientific environment.
Yes. Yeah, I think I like the approach, because I follow a lot of your writings, and I also read the comments under some of your posts, and I realize that a lot of people don't really truly understand, because I remember I saw this model where it says that let's say researchers theorize practice, and there are people who are, it's like a quadrant, right? And there are people who practice. So these are like practitioners, right? Right.
Yeah.
And then consultants, for example, right, who try to put into practice a theory and things like that. So they are very Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me still? Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
I was going to ask a follow-up question. So the thing is, why is there this gap in understanding? Like, I'm really curious because, like you said, the comments that I read are from people sometimes even with a master's degree, people with like who are supposedly well educated, and they seem not to get this. So, is it not the fault of the educational system that got them to think this way, right? So, can't we still blame our school for churning out people who think that every theory is fiction, right? Or like, because I see some bit of like a dilemma, like a quandary here, right? Why is there gap in understanding this? I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
It's anyway. I think it is so. One fundamentally, yeah.
I think your network is still it's still slowing, breaking up a bit. Let me get Dr. Ken to redial back into the call. In the meantime, I will just read some of your comments. I think I was reading Jehan's comments. It's always great to watch people who inspire and to get to know amazing young people from different backgrounds. Thank you for joining in. You also said a very interesting question. Yes, so I think when we get Ken back, I'm really curious. I want to really kind of probe why there is this clear gap or understanding, because I feel that the economies that are being run in developing countries like Ghana, from my point of view, what we are lacking is not practitioners. What we are lacking is good, sound theories upon which we can build sound practice, right? So let's see if we can get some more inputs from Doc here. Oh, okay. So welcome back. I was saying that I have my own kind of theory, which I want you to kind of critique. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's also a dilemma. I really I don't understand why people think a theory is a fiction. Really, I don't. And so I would think that it is sheer ignorance, and by ignorance, I actually mean that the knowledge exists, but people have not made the effort to find out what a theory is. You get it? So that is one of the opinions I would express about the existence of this phenomenon. But then also, I think if you delve a bit deeper, a theory from its etymology, I think it comes from the word theoria. That word, Greek word, actually means to think, okay, to think. And then practice, which also comes from praxis, right, means to do, right? So I want to put this side by side, thinking and doing, right? Thinking and doing. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people think that, okay, a theory is just someone's thought about how something works. And indeed, you see, colloquially or in everyday English, when we talk about theory or my theory, it is the way I think about how
Can you still hear me? Just making sure that you can still hear me. Okay. Can you still hear me, Doc? Okay, it's a bit of a network issue there. Yes, so for those of you joining, this is People Who Inspire. I'm speaking with, okay, so Doc is back. Okay, awesome. So my follow-up question here is in relation to like what you do, right? You are trying to prepare the next generation of young people whose skill sets and knowledge base will be relevant for the world that you are going to be living in. Now, I there's this notion that our universities are not doing enough to prepare our students for the job market, right? What, from your point of view, what three things, first of all, is this notion correct? And if the notion is correct, what three things can we do to prepare our students better for the job market, right? And if you think the notion is wrong, can you justify why that notion is wrong?
Yeah, obviously, I think all universities in the world can do better, in preparing students for the job market. But I'm interested in understanding why, in recent times, the university gets a lot of criticism or get criticized quite frequently for not producing what some people call fit and people who are fit for the job market. No, so I like to go back. I made a post and someone wrote a very interesting comment under it. And the person said that, look, you see, when I was younger and I was growing up, our parents, right, used to talk about the fact that when they were in the university at the time, there were just a handful of people in the university. And by the time they graduated, in fact, even before they graduated, the industries were chasing them and offering them jobs, right? So at the time, the supply of jobs far exceeded the demand for it, right? And that clearly, in that environment, even if the universities were not doing the best to, churn out the best of graduates, I don't think the universities will get a lot of criticism for that. Now, the environment has changed so much. Now you have more than 10 times the number of students who would have entered the university maybe 4 or 5 decades ago entering the universities today. And so you will realize that the supply of jobs does not match the demand for jobs, right? And it is also the case that a lot of the people who many years ago wouldn't have qualified to get into the university today are in the university, right? So many of the universities in Ghana actually run fee-paying arrangements where students who do not make the grades can still pay to, join the program. And there's the truth. There's the truth. The truth, based on my experience, is that it is true that for the same program, you find some people doing so well, and others are not doing so well, right? Why would you blame the university for the underperformance of one person and not, praise the university for the good performance of the other person? Very often, a lot of the people who tend to criticize academics and the university for not producing so-called fit students are people who have encountered just one group of, graduates. Let's say those who did not do so well in the university, who have not imbibed the principles and the knowledge they were
I
supposed
think
to
your line is breaking
imbibe.
again.
Um, and a lot of those students, you trace their inability.
Okay, yes. So now I think I should be able to hear you. You said the last sentence I heard was that oh, okay. So it's network is okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. The last sentence was about people who normally criticize have one skewed perspective.
Exactly, because I believe they've met just a few of the university graduates. They've not met the full range of university graduates, and their views are skewed towards the few they have met. But sometimes a lot of people will tend to generalize, make general statements, which I find very interesting. And they are easy to falsify. A lot of the people who make these general statements, they do not take into account the fact that these statements are easy to falsify. So I ask myself, okay, I'm a graduate of the same university, right? And on the same program that produced those underperforming students, there were others who did so well. So how come that some people are able to perform so well and others are unable to perform so well? I think that is where the conversation should be. You see, rather than using a few underperforming students to criticize the university for not making or for not producing so-called skilled students. Then again, I ask the question: what kind of skills are you talking about? Because there is a broad range of skills.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the case that a university graduate or someone who graduates from the university without any skills at all. Right?
Yeah.
They would have certain skills. And so what kind of skills do you think the universities should be imbibing in these students that we are failing to do, or we are failing to deliver? A lot of the time when I read the comments, it's very generic, it's vague. You don't really get a sense of what these critics mean by skills, and so it's very difficult for someone in academia. It's very difficult for me to even come up with a solution if I don't know exactly what these critics mean by the lack of skills.
No, it's very clear, and I share in that perspective. And from in kind of continuing this conversation, how much of this whole discussion, I think what maybe let me backtrack. I feel that sometimes the responsibility of the student is removed from the equation or from the discussion. I think that there's this perception that somehow the university has to pontificate these values and skill sets, infuse it into the students, but we don't also take a look at the responsibility of the student to really sit down to study, like to be curious enough to what is your take on this? Like, I know how much of it really also beholds on the students?
For me, that is one of the factors that explains performance, right? In the university, it's motivation. Is the student motivated enough to learn? I'll give you some examples. So I go to class and I teach maybe the theoretical aspect of things. You see, the practical aspect, which will require demonstration, requires additional effort. You see, maybe the student has to attend a tutorial, and the student has to practice that thing over a certain period of time to be able to, gain the practical bit of it. But a lot of the time, students would express disinterest, in going to the field to put to practice the things they have learned in the classroom, right? And so, in that case, how then do you blame the teacher or the university for not doing much? But then, even if the student is willing, I know when I was a student, I almost made sure that I went overboard. You see,
Oh, I think your network is is breaking up again. So, for those of you watching, apologize for the network issues we're having today. But this is PWI, People Who Inspire, and today I have Dr. Ken Appiah here. He's an amazing academic, and today we found out he's also an exceptional sports person, a footballer, and probably that would have been another path, a career path he would have chosen had it not been for academia. He went to Cambridge, did his PhD at Reading in the UK, and then he's back to KNUST as a lecturer. So we're talking about how we're going to bridge the gap between theory and practice, and the general notion that Ghana's educational system is too theoretical and it's kind of disconnected from the practical existential realities of people. And so you go to school and you study a bunch of models and theories. Now the question is, how did you translate those theoretical understanding to your everyday life? And we've talked about the fact that a lot of times in these discussions we get things wrong. We get the basic premise wrong, and that a lot of the understanding also depends on the students, right? A lot of being able to practice their theory also behoves on the motivation of the student, as Ken was just sharing with us. There's also the general notion that the universities kind of produce exceptional students and some not too exceptional students. So the question is, why do we only take one aspect of the spectrum to generalize? And why don't we take the exceptional students who also graduate from the same universities to make this generalization that our universities are not churning out, fit for purpose students for the job market? So it's kind of a debate, and I'm sure the discussions would go on and on and on. So I would wait for Ken to dial back in. We have a few comments I would love to bring on the screen. So Linda Na Lamle Lankwe Mills says that I believe as an individual, you need to also prepare yourself for the outside world. You can't entirely blame the university for this. Our resources are limited here, but you can make it once you set your mind to it. Thanks, Linda, for this. I think this is exactly what we're just talking about, that in the equation of trying to bridge the gap between theory and practice, we need to include the responsibility and the motivation of the student to the entire equation. No matter how well the university is, the student would also have the responsibility to kind of put in the work to make sure that they become relevant in the job market. So Linda, I truly appreciate your tuning in and sending in this comment. We also have Atu says, are there any collaborations between industry and university in structuring and reviewing the course contents in our universities? This is a good question, Atu, I'm definitely going to ask Ken when he comes back. If there is, how strong is this collaboration? I think strong collaboration with industry is key to addressing this issue. This is a fantastic point. I think in this whole concept about theory and practice, and maybe just to explain a little bit, theoretical understanding, in my view, is as important as the practice of a theory, or the practice of a practice, as we call it, right? So there's a general misconception that theories are not important, but they are critical, right? Because theories are based on observations and real life data, right? So it's important that people in academia, researchers, like Ken, these are people who try to theorize practice. So they observe what is being practiced and they seek to optimize what is being practiced by observing, collecting data, analyzing data, and coming up with novel insights that can help to optimize what is being practiced. Okay, so it's important that we strike this balance. I think Ken should be back now. Yes, okay, so he's back now. So there are a few comments, questions, just to also add to the discussion. Ken, I'll bring them. Linda says that I believe as an individual, you need to also prepare yourself for the outside world. you can't entirely blame the university for this. Our resources are limited here, but you can make it once you set your mind to it. So this is just to confirm, Doc, what you said earlier, that as the students also have a responsibility. Can you hear me? There's another question I would want you to address. The final question.
And Prince, I want to react to this. You see?
Yes. You
see, when I was a student, I knew very clearly that to acquire in the university was inadequate. And so this is what I did.
Oh, we lost him again. So yes, Ato, I would ask your question immediately. He comes back online, because I think that question is really important. Trying to bring the collaboration or establish a collaboration between industry and academia research. This is a fantastic question. The curriculum is such that okay, so I have Ken is back online. Let's try to add him back again. Okay, I think you're back. You're reacting to the fact that
yeah. Okay.
Yes, please, I think you can. You can go ahead. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I was making the point that when I was in school, I clearly understood that the university education would equip me with some knowledge, but it was not likely to be adequate, right? And so the long-term vacation, the 3 months break, I would do internship, right? I would go and work in industry. So I'll go and work in industry so that I can get a sense of what is happening in industry, right? I quite remember I would make sure that I studied more than what my lecturers were teaching me in class. So I'll go to the library, and then after studying what I've been taught in class, I'll pick other textbooks and I'll be learning other things that have not been taught. You get it? But and I believe today there are students like
Okay, so I think we've lost him again. It's a poor internet connection. Okay, so I think I would try to, when we get Ken back, I would try to kind of wrap it up so that we can kind of truncate this internet connectivity issue. So I think I would let him address the last question. I'll let Ken address the last question that Ato had asked. So I'll put it on the screen. So when he comes, because I think that's really key for me, that the curriculum that we have in our universities today should be actually, let's say, concomitant with what the industry expects graduates, of these universities, the skill sets that it should have, right? It should be concomitant. There shouldn't be a dissonance between what is being taught in the curriculum versus what industry is expecting from these graduates, right? So if industry is expecting a certain degree of analytical skills from graduates, then it behoves on the universities to equip the students with these skills as well. Doc, because of the constraints with time and the internet, I want you to address this last question, and then we can wrap it up if that's okay. Because this, okay, I think is quite that's critical. Fine. It says, are there any collaborations between industry and the universities in structuring and reviewing the course contents in our universities? If there is, how strong is this collaboration? I think strong collaboration with industry is key to addressing this, deficits that we see. So can you address this and we can wrap it up? Can you
repeat the question?
Yes, I'll do that. It says, are there any collaborations between industry and university in structuring and reviewing the course contents in our universities? If there is, how strong is this collaboration? So essentially, he wants to know that, one, is there collaboration between industry and the course content that is being taught the students in the university? And if there's this collaboration, how strong is this collaboration? Oh, okay, we just lost him again. So I like this question a lot, because then we can wrap up today's session with this question once he's back. So yes, for those of you who joined, we're going to take the last question from that you see on the screen, and then I'll let Ken address it. But I would like to thank all of you for tuning in. And once he's back, I'll let him give his final words, because I think today the internet has not been too lenient on us. So we would try to wrap it up so we don't have too many disruptions. But this is People Who Inspire. I try as much as possible every weekend to bring you a guest. And as I keep saying, that the import of PWI is to bring innovators, thinkers, doers, and trailblazers onto the platform for them to share their stories. And the whole import of this platform is that you'd be able to glean, some inspiration from the stories of these people. And I try to also bring in thought-provoking topics that kind of would help to spice up the discussions every now and then. So let's get Ken to dial back in for the last question, and then we can wrap it up. So I think I have him back. But yeah, thanks for joining. Shout outs to all those who joined. Jihan, Atu, Danu also joined. Felix also joined. There's this, okay, it's 233 and beyond. I don't know who that is, but yeah. And Felix, yeah, thanks for dialing in. I'm hoping to get Doc back onto the stream for his final words in addressing that question, and then we'll wrap up. We are far past the time, but it's because of the internet connectivity topics that we're having. Okay, so we'll try for the last time. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, then we would wrap things up and we'll see if it works.
It's cool, just lying here on the floor. Cold towels, my feet against the door. How long have I been in this space? Arms over eyes, help me retrace. How did I become the doormat here? Memories spinning around my head seem pretty cavalier. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how you're beat to motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Do you leave me alone and thinking I'm the one to...
Okay, so yes, I'm going to wrap today's session up. Unfortunately, due to the internet connectivity issues we are having, I would have to end today's PWI quite abruptly, but I will try my best to bring Dr. Ken back in subsequent episodes. Your way with another episode. Just keep tabs on my Facebook, LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. And yeah, I wish you a great weekend and thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend and ciao. Catch you in the next one. Bye bye.